All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our Martinez Refining Company Oversight Committee meeting. I don't anticipate that this meeting will take the entire hour and a half, but there are some items on the agenda that I wanted to provide a status update to the Oversight Committee on. In addition, I wanted to give a short presentation to talk a little bit more about our process. And then I want to talk about the Safety Culture Assessment Report and discuss with the Oversight Committee next steps. So the first item that we had on our agenda was to discuss the status of the Incident Investigation Report. As everyone may recall, at our last meeting on May 16th, the Oversight Committee voted to extend the public comment period to allow the public extra time to comment, as additional information had been posted by Contra Costa Health and MRC related to the stripper slide valve. The date of that public comment period ended on June 3rd, 2024. Overall, we did not receive a big number of comments. However, from the few comments that we got, we have received one 41-page document, one 27-page document, and one 4-page document from members of the public commenting on the incident investigation report. Contra Costa Health will be working with Scott Berger and his associates to address the comments from these reports. It is my hope that we will be done addressing these comments in August so that we can move this report to its next step, which would be the report out to the Board of Supervisors and City of Martinez. And for that incident investigation report, that would be the final report. Before I move on to the next agenda topic, I just quickly wanted to see if any members of the Oversight Committee had any questions related to that. I'm not seeing any hands raised, so I'm going to move on to the next topic, which is the status of the Safety Culture Assessment Report. At our last meeting on May 16th, we had a report out from Scott Berger and Kenan Stevick on the Safety Culture Assessment Draft Report, which was given to the Oversight Committee. And the Oversight Committee has submitted both written and verbal comments, and Scott and Kenan are working on addressing those. We have discussed timelines a little bit, and I don't want to commit to a specific date, but we are hoping to move forward with the next steps on this process fairly quickly. However, I did want to go through a short presentation because at our last Oversight Committee on May 16th, there were questions from some Oversight Committee members and from members of the public related to our process. And so I just wanted to briefly go over that with everybody. So if you allow me to share my screen, I will get the PowerPoint presentation started. Okay, so I know that this slide is a slide that everyone is very familiar with seeing. This kind of goes over just the general process when we have our Oversight Committee overseeing independent evaluations for an incident. The first step of that process is the Oversight Committee is established. The second part is to select a contractor to perform the investigation or safety culture assessment or whatever evaluation it is that we are looking to have done. Then the third step is that the consultant will create a draft report, which was reviewed by the Oversight Committee, and their comments are addressed. That draft report then moves to a 45-day public comment where we host a public meeting and receive comments from the public that are also addressed before the next step is hit, which is the public presentation of the final report to the ISO Ad Hoc Committee, and in this case, for the Martinez Refining Company Oversight Committee, the City of Martinez. But I wanted to take a few minutes to dive a little bit deeper into some of these steps. So step 2, on selection of contractor to perform the independent evaluation, and in this case for MRC, either we're talking about the incident investigation or the safety culture assessment. That contract process works in the following manner. Contra Costa Health will sign a contract with the consultant for the work to be performed. The Oversight Committee is the one who's made the selection, and they have worked to define that scope of work for whatever evaluation it is we are doing. After that step, the next step is that the consultant and the facility will sign a non-disclosure agreement. This protects confidential business information, or CBI, from being disseminated. We have a process established for the facility to identify the CBI, but it is Contra Costa Health who ultimately has the final determination on whether items brought up by the facility truly are confidential business information or not. So that kind of covers the contracting process and the, everything that happens before the work and when we get to the draft report. For the step of draft report reviewed by the Oversight Committee, I want to dive a little bit deeper into this one as well. So when that draft report is completed by the consultant, the very first step in that is that the consultant sends the draft to the facility for a confidential business information or CBI check. So the facility is the first one who sees the report, but it is only for the purposes of the CBI check. The facility has 48 hours to notify Contra Costa Health of any CBI concerns. If none are received, we move on to the next step. If we do receive concerns, Contra Costa Health will then review those concerns and will have the final say on whether or not the confidential business information concerns are truly confidential business information. After that, Contra Costa Health does do a review of the report to ensure that the draft report that is submitted meets the scope of work that was defined by the Oversight Committee. Depending on the review of that report, some additional work, including some additional on-site work, may be requested. You all may remember that for the incident investigation report, we did do some additional on-site visits to verify some technical and factual information before we had the report given to the Oversight Committee. Once Contra Costa Health reviews the report and if any additional work was requested, that work is completed. The report is then given to the Oversight Committee to review. The Oversight Committee comments are incorporated, and then we move on to the 45-day public comment period to commence that process and to have our public meeting. And I really just wanted to go over this because I heard at the last meeting, some concerns about when the facility sees the report, what is the facility's, role in commenting on that report. And so I wanted to bring some clarity to that. MRC does have a representative on the Oversight Committee, so there are comments that are coming to us through the Oversight Committee from MRC on that report. But any main comments, from the facility really would need to be submitted during that 45-day public comment period. During the portion between when the consultant has that draft and you, the Oversight Committee, get the report, again, they are having that CBI review check, and Contra Costa Health will also do a review of the report before disseminating it out to the Oversight Committee. So I wanted to see if the Oversight Committee had any questions on that process. Yes, go ahead, Nick.
Nicole, I just wanted to thank you for clarifying all that. Yeah, I was not under the impression that that's how everything went. So thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Tony? Tony, I'm sorry, you're on mute.
Thanks, Nicole. And Nick is right. I think people were under the assumption that maybe the facility was driving the bus, when in reality, Contra Costa Health Services has been in control of this process from the beginning. And I think that's important that everybody understand that.
Thank you, Tony. And I agree with you. And I think it's important that everyone understood that, which is why I wanted to go into more detail. And I, apologize if that had been unclear when we started this process, but I'm glad to shed light on that. And now with sharing this information, what I would like to do then is move forward with a vote from the Oversight Committee, now that we understand this process, to see whether or not you guys all feel comfortable with us moving to the next step, which is opening up that public comment period and 45-day report once Scott and Kenan are done with their comment addressing. Oh, Kent, I saw that your hand just went raised, so I'll go to you before we do any official votes.
Okay, in the determination of confidential information, what level of information do you actually have when you're determining whether or not it's confidential or not? Are you actually referring to the information itself, or sort of the container of the information that is what the information might be about, or in general?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. So I do want to start this off by saying that, in the work that has been done for the MRC Oversight Committee, we have not had MRC contact us stating that they felt that any confidential business information was included in the report. So I'm going to be talking from a theoretical point of view, but if at any point in time in this process, we had received, comments from MRC that they felt confidential business information was being put in the report, we would have to review the exact sections of the report that they felt contained confidential business information. We would default to our health and safety code to look as to what is protected underneath that regulation. And that would be the source that we would use to make that determination. If it was necessary for us to look at the actual source of that information to determine whether or not it was confidential business information or not, Contra Costa Health, in addition to the contractor, would have conversations about that with the facility. But really what would be the main determining factor on that would be the definition that is found in the health and safety code and also in our industrial safety ordinance regulations around confidential business information and trade secrets. Does that help answer your question, Kent?
Yes. My main concern was actually the calling stuff confidential business information is a great way of hiding stuff that they don't necessarily want us to see. And I just was sort of trying to poke at that beast.
Yeah, and so we did set the process up in such a way that, Contra Costa Health would be able to make that final determination and see what was reviewed, in addition to the fact that the consultant that we were working with will have, also seen and obtained that information. And so, yes, we would use those regulatory guardrails in making that determination. So there would be nothing that we wouldn't be able to see or would be able to just be claimed as CBI and would, be removed from a report without a very thorough review.
Great, thank you.
Okay, if there are no further questions or comments from the Oversight Committee, because we do have more than half of the Oversight Committee members present, I would like to move forward with a vote to move to the next step of opening the public comment period once we have that draft report from Scott and Kennan. So I'm going to go down my list as I see it to take a vote. A yes vote means you would like to move forward. A no vote means that you would not like to move forward. And I would ask that if you vote no, you let me know the reason why. So I'm going to start with Tom.
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Ken?
So we're not going to see how comments were addressed in the report first. That I can't say yes or no. I have no idea.
So you would see it in the draft report that's open for public comment, and you would also have an opportunity to comment again at that point in time.
That's fine.
Pedro?
Yes.
Kent?
Are the public comments included in the draft report?
Yes, everything is appended to the draft report. So there will be two appendices. One will contain all of the Oversight Committee comments and responses and any changes that were made identified. And then the second appendix, when we get to that point, would have every single public comment and response appended.
Yes.
Okay. And Contra Costa Health also votes yes, so that is a unanimous yes to move forward with that process. As I said, I didn't want to commit to a specific date as I'm still ironing out availability and details, but I am hoping to open that somewhere near the end of the end of July, early August. And I will keep the Oversight Committee and everyone apprised of that, and we will get that information out through all of our normal channels. Okay, I think we're now at the part of our meeting process where we would open this up for public comment. I don't see any members of the public that would want to comment, so I will open it up to any other comments from the Oversight Committee before we conclude. Okay. I am not seeing any hands raised or hearing any comments from members of the Oversight Committee. So I will go ahead and end this meeting, and I will keep everyone updated as we make progress on both the incident investigation report and the safety culture assessment report. Thank you, everybody, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.